Hi, everybody. Welcome to the Read Podcast. We're just in the middle of our daily check-in, and today we're going to have a little bit of a different conversation. So excited to have this conversation with Amy and Kelly, but we thought we're three-quarters of the way through the year, and through it all, we want to have a conversation around growth and leadership. And these two people, my two co-hosts, inspire me. I think they inspire so many other leaders, and I wanted to put us in a conversation to really reflect on what leadership experiences they've had this year, what they've gone through, and how all of us, no matter who's watching this, emerging leaders and future leaders, how do we see ourselves inside the story? So, Amy, great to have you as my co-host, and Kelly, great to have you. Nice to see you both.
I love you both, and thanks for being here.
So Amy, I just thought we had this great prep call, and I thought today's a great day to put Amy right on the spot. You know, these are the questions that nobody's asked Amy. Me and Kelly have set this up perfectly. We just want to jump right into it. But Amy, one thing I wanted to get to first, what's one leadership lesson that you've learned about yourself so far in 2025? Something that's really made you do some self-reflections.
Well, it would behoove me not to say that Kelly and I want everyone to know on the call that if you're going to go on the conference circuit, you need to use Run to Runway, learn how to drink a glass of wine really well, and connect. But all kidding aside, I would say, gosh, there's so many learnings, right? I mean, the world keeps pivoting. You know, the government shutdown just happened. So all the things, industry. I would say one of my biggest learnings, though, is still, and I repeat this, is you still have to lead with more emotional intelligence than the business sense at times. And you got to make sure the team's ready for what you're going to throw at them. So prepping them, making sure they're in a great headspace. And I also agree that being a chameleon, you have to literally shift where you are, what's going on, what room you're in, whether you're in a boardroom or whether you're in a manager meeting or whether you're in a restaurant hanging out with the team. You have to find the connection piece with who you're with. And so being a connector is really important as well. So lots of different things. There is no easy answer in running a business right now. I think we're much stronger in a restaurant community than we ever have been. I work with Kelly a lot. We ping each other a lot on what's going on and what we can do differently or ideas. But it's very good to have some external mentors and advocates. So all of that. There's not one thing. Kelly, what about you, ma'am?
Amy, do you mind? So, Kelly, do you mind, just so we don't lose it? Amy, can you just, for the audience, we talk about emotional intelligence, but I think it's something you don't talk about that you embody, and it shows up in all of your relationships. I think it goes to how you're a connector in the industry and pulling people together. What's easy and hard about emotional intelligence for you? I think it's something we hear the words, but it's not often practiced still. What's it like for you to do it? Is it hard? Is it easy? What makes it worth it?
I think there are people that have a more natural side to emotional intelligence than others. Some people struggle with, and honestly, some leaders don't care if they do it or not. So you have to decide what kind of leader you want to be and who you want to follow. I just had somebody lose their job yesterday, and I said, make a list of what leaders you want to work for, which companies you want to work for, and now I need you to get out of the mud and send me a resume because we're going to pull out of this and we're going to get you where you want to go, and we'll start connecting you with people. I do think that emotional intelligence, the business side is understanding the P&L and the real estate and the construction and all those black and white things that come together, but to make the business. But the emotional side is the people side, and we're in the people industry, still the second largest industry in the country, after the government as of today. Might have changed today, I guess I should say. But the piece on understanding and meeting people where they're at right now is more important than ever. So you have more single people eating out and living alone than ever in the past. And so when that happens, when people do go out, they do want to connect. Like if I see Kelly, I want to go over and, get a hug from her. She's this warm, amazing human. So how do you understand that Kelly's okay with that? That's the emotional intelligence. There's people that are standoffish. You walk into a restaurant and you'll get a vibe. And I do, people always know I do the heart check thing, but hey, where are you feeling? How are you feeling today? And we start every meeting off with the 1 to 5s. And sometimes they'll say they're 2 or 3s. And then I hang up the phone and I call them. I go, what's going on? And, somebody will say, hey, my kid's acting up, or I just had to put my dog down, or, found out some devastating news about a friend or a family member. That's not the time to do a NRO rollout or a LTO. It's let's pause for a minute, see what you need. And then that creates more retention, more buy-in. Because again, we are people first. There are people that hop on the phone. they get straight to business, and that's okay too. But you still got to read the room. And so I think that's important for me. And I think a lot of us go through a lot of things. And one of the things, I talked about in the World podcast the other day is a lot of people are lonely at the top. And I know Jeff Alexander talked about that on our podcast. And it is true. And so I'll be very vulnerable. I reached out to Kelly, I don't know, a month ago, and I was like, I'm going through it, not feeling it, imposter syndrome, all the things. And she was just like such a help for that. So you got to have those people that you can trust and confide in. So Kelly, thank you for that and being there. But anyway.
Yeah. So, I was going to say, Amy, something that the heart check for me is something that I am so grateful for being able to take away from one of the many things that I've learned from you. But I think when you talk about emotional intelligence, a lot of people sometimes think it's like a selfish thing of like, it's all internal. It's how am I understanding things? How do I personally feel? But it's so much more than that. And you nailed it, right? It's being able to read a room and see how somebody's feeling. But I just think it's so amazing that, you've been able to empower your team to say, I'm not okay, right? I'm not having a great day. And I think that from a leadership perspective, providing a safe space where somebody can say, like, I'm not at my best today. Here's the reasons why. Give me some grace. And that is so much easier to handle than a blowout in the kitchen or, a meeting that goes completely awry and you're like, who is this person, right? I think it just helps level setting. And so I think that is just something so incredible to develop within a team. So
Yeah, I think, Amy, you said something so beautiful up front. You said you have to decide what type of leader you are. And you said it without judgment. Like there's people that are going to be in an organization driving metrics, driving growth, and that's their style and that's the brand. Get it. I think for the three of us on the call, as we've chosen paths to connect with humans and create connection, through H to H, human to human connection, through relationship. And there's no right path, but I think our value alignment is there. And it comes with challenges that I can relate to the imposter syndrome side. I've had some challenges in the last few months myself to see it's easier not to go deep. It's easier not to get into the vulnerability. I've created some situations now where in my work, sometimes it's easier to be more tactical, but I stopped and said, no, I'm not doing it. This is who I am and I'm going to stay the course and it's what I love. Kelly, on your side, tell me a little bit about, what's really landed for you so far. Not only are you impacting so many different leaders, but you're also building, like you told me how many people on your team and the other day, and I was blown away. Like it is
building an empire.
Yeah, entrepreneurial success story. It is remarkable. Sorry.
It's been wild, to say the least. And I would say I am so beyond grateful for the people that have trusted me to kind of come to the team and help build this thing that is not, cookie cutter. It's not clean. It's many days it's messy, and you need to be surrounded by a special type of team that can understand that and can see that and can sort of roll with the punches, given that we're 2.5 almost years old now, right? Things aren't perfect. And so you need to have a team that, can really understand that. And I think as a leader, I am grateful for all of the leaders I've had up until this point, where I've worked for so many individuals that I've taken away both good things and bad things and said, okay, I want to be that type of a leader, or I don't want to be that type of a leader. And I think it sometimes, as terrible as that sounds, sometimes it helps to work for somebody that you're like, I don't align with that type of leadership, just because it helps you create the environment that that you thrive in and that you want to provide. And so I have been just very blessed to have a team that's allowed me to evolve as a leader, coming up with the process every single day. Like we were talking about earlier, like today I had my IT hat on, earlier I had HR hat on, and you have to roll with the punches. And having a team that, kind of understands that and that feels safe in an environment to be able to say, like, here's what I'm thinking about this. That's what's been so critical to my business growing the way that it has, because I've had those great leaders that can, voice their opinions, that can say, this is how we should be doing this. And they've been building it alongside me just as much as I have. So it's been amazing to be able to watch that.
I think we can all relate to that story, wearing different hats, having the ability, Amy said, to be a chameleon. And then also, we're HR, we're IT, we're business growth, we're marketing, all of the things. I think we can all relate to that. And in some ways, how do we accept that and embrace the challenge or embrace the complexity of our journeys and lean into it? And what's the lesson in the challenge? One thing I'd love to do now is, and Kelly, I'll come back to you, is what, in my belief, people remember rich and vivid stories. So I think we could share processes and conversations, but we really remember like there's experiences where people could see themselves inside your experience. But is there any moment this year, and I didn't prep either of you for this, that you've had that just it was a lesson that you really, whether it was a challenge or a success story, that impacted you?
You, we were very lucky to get invited to our first brand conference this year, where we were going from behind screens, right, to actually being out in person and in front of people. And I had a team that we've never done that before. As a group, we've never done that. And having done that in some of my similar, previous roles, it's something where there's a lot that actually goes into it. You don't just get to show up to the hotel and do your thing, right? As a business, you then need to come up with, okay, it's not just business cards. What about the business card holder? What about the tablecloth? What about there were so many things that, really went into it. And for me, it was such a great moment to be able to work with my team to teach them of like, hey, you get to do the next show on your own because you went through this entire playbook and were able to experience all of that hands-on and giving that experience. And so for somebody on my team that's never gotten on a plane before, being able to put them on a plane and bring them to Florida and showcase all these things to them, to me, that made me feel so great as a leader of being able to provide the experience, but B, from a learning perspective. And now seeing that she's been to 2+ conferences all on her own, taking that exact playbook, sending the photos, and I'm like, God, I couldn't have done it any better myself. To me, that has been incredibly powerful this year, and being able to see it, seeing it work, seeing somebody get excited about it, and seeing that leadership sort of translate down into they share the same vision and excitement that I do. And so it's been amazing to be able to watch that.
I love that you provided that development, but also opportunity for her, because you're just creating opportunities and letting people thrive. So that's awesome.
Yeah. I think anybody listening to this, right? So by design, Kelly's scaling a business that's got multiple humans and multiple partners. It's not addition, it's multiplication, but she's just leadership to empower others to lead. Like if we just stayed with that for a second, like, are you doing the work? Are you creating a system to allow to stand behind others and let them step up and thrive? And one thing, because Ed Kelly, as you're sharing it, you can see how you're sharing, right? You can see the internal reflection as you shared the story and going through that journey. I'm sure there's good and challenge with it, but that's a choice that we can all make. Are you building to do the work, or are you building to support others to scale and grow?
And I swear, and I think, for Amy, for you, with all the work that you've seen at Barcelona, with the leaders that you were working with a year ago, right? And where they've been able to go in their career, the growth that you've seen at your different restaurants, I mean, that's got to be empowering for you as well to see that, putting everything that you believe in, putting it into practice, actually seeing the results from it there's nothing more rewarding than that.
Yeah. The thing that I think you and I align on as leaders is giving people decision rights and allowing them to drive all over the road without going off the guardrails. And I think that we have to trust and empower people more. A lot of times they do things much better than I would. It's just giving them the space for it. So yeah, I mean, I can do real estate and go on these tours because they're doing all the things that they're aligned on doing moving forward now when I'm not in the room. So we have a great team. Dan Kinsinger is a badass. I mean, we've got some really, really cool individuals that just, make things happen. But it is because I think at the beginning when I walked in the door, it's like, here's where we need to pivot a little bit. Here's where we need to adjust. We're not, the past is we're celebrating our 30th anniversary next year. So very much respecting that. But then also, how do we keep scaling the business and also looking at it to make sure that it still feels intimate when you walk in the door, and the team has to build that sense of party and connection and hospitality. But man, you surround yourself with good people, your life is a lot easier. And then I get to go and learn new things. So that's what I'm doing right now. And I think that that's really important. The decision rights like you gave her, and allowing them to grow in their own space. And sometimes you're like, would I do that way? No, but I'm like, but that's okay. They're doing it better, or they got to the end goal that we needed on their own, and they feel empowered. And then they go start, and they have more confidence to go do things on their own and make better decisions. So it's great. A lot of coaching, but you get them there.
You totally do. And Matt, I have to imagine for you, you've had just an incredible year speaking to some amazing brands. Any rewarding stories or one that sticks out to you of like, wow, I saw the immediate impact from them, or they came back to me and let me know how impactful sitting through, your coaching and your leadership, what that's done for their business. I'm sure you have way more than one really great example, but is there one that sticks out for you?
Yeah, I think there's, in the work that I get to do, what I'm very grateful for is I'm not delivering them something. I'm just creating space for them to have a conversation that they need to have. And sometimes I want to jump in and provide a solution, but it's really a forcing function for what's happening amongst the people side. So I was doing a conference a couple of weeks ago, just an emotional reaction, and we did an exercise. And there's this great leader from the back of house, really quiet, pretty dominant. And she stood up and shared at the end of the session, and she broke into full tears. She's like, I just had communication on a break with my team, and we had a breakthrough based on me owning something that I needed to own. And it was a positive thing, but she didn't do positive reflection. But she paused the meeting and said, I need a second to share this. So can I share before we wrap? And she shared her story and the impact and the dialogue that happened on break. But then you saw the whole room energy change. And I just went back to my hotel and I sat in the hotel and I'm just so effing grateful to be able to create space for other people to have a conversation. Because I believe in the human element of the business, and it doesn't always land. Sometimes I go a little bit too deep. Sometimes we push a different direction. But I also know at this stage of my career, it's delivering a keynote's fun. Coaching work's not about me. I get to disappear into the background, and if they create change for them, and I just encourage leaders to continue to lean in and create space to talk about each other and the stuff and things. The process will follow. Both of you just shared that. Once we have trust and safety and support of each other, we can run through a wall. But sometimes we got to link arms before we run through the wall. So thanks for asking. It was such a great moment, and there's been dialogue with that whole team since. But one thing that I'll take from this year that's really helped my side is that I'm studying and reading a lot and experiencing a lot. The top performing leaders embrace hard. They don't expect it to be easy. And I didn't see that angle 5 years ago. And I've really spent a lot of time on it, especially this year. I look at the both of you. You both run through hard and run through challenge. And I think it really is at the foundation of great leadership. It's not just thinking it's going to be smooth, not just thinking we're going to win, but when you get punched in the nose, to keep moving forward. And because all industries are difficult, and ours is as well. But that lesson for me is standing out that the top performing teams they don't know what's coming, but they're prepared for it, and they're grounded on their feet. One thing just a kind of closing question for both of you, because you both interact and inspire and work with so many leaders. If you could just pause right now and think about you having a one-on-one conversation, your phone rings or somebody reaches out to you on LinkedIn, or you're talking to somebody in your team, what's one lesson you'd leave with today's leader to be like, you really got to pay attention to this, lean into this, invest in this? If you could have that honest, give them the ability to see the light.
I've been coaching a lot. Literally, I think 3 people lost their jobs yesterday that reached out. It seems to be happening right now. The Starbucks layoffs, other company layoffs, government shutdowns. And they're so stuck in, why did this happen to me? And I'll say to them, it already happened. You have to move on. So what are we going to do? You can get stuck in the mud for 2 minutes. You text me this morning when I was driving, couldn't answer. So you've had a longer than you should have to wallow in it. But now what are we going to do about it? And I think that it slows down productivity. I do coach a lot of young women and men about this. It's that inner critic, inner gremlin that just gets you stuck and you're in this wheelhouse. And I've done it before, and that's where Kelly pulled me out last month. But like, when you do it, you got to reach out for somebody to smack you upside the head and say, you're fine, you're going to be okay. But in that moment, or you lose your job, or you're switching companies, or, yes, you're going into the unknown. Like, I get up every day and I know my known. Kelly gets up every day and she's creating her known. But for a lot of people right now, where the world is a little bit crazy, they don't know. And so, but you got to decide, are you going to be productive, or are you going to sit in it? And the longer you sit in it, the longer it's going to take you to put a resume together, the longer it's going to take you to find a job, the longer it's going to take you to get a meeting done, the longer it's going to people get feedback sometimes, and I watch them and they just spiral. And I always tell people, you can take feedback one or two ways. You can either get better with it, or you can sit in it and let it just completely bring you down. And so you have to decide, do I want to get better? Am I taking it? And so listen, I've gotten tough feedback along the way. I mark my calendar 30 days later to make sure I've corrected, and I go back to that person and say, have you seen a correction? If it's something I believe I should correct, I always follow up 60 days later. Is it eliminated, or are you still seeing it? And then it's like, okay, I've moved on. But the minute I get it, it stings sometimes for a minute. And then you're like, okay, what are we going to do to fix it? And a lot of people just have this. And I think that that's what can actually get you to the next level. A lot of emerging leaders, they just, oh, screw that company, or, oh, that leader's mean, or, that they didn't deliver it right. How about look in the mirror? And I think the emerging leaders in the next generation struggle with that a little bit. But if they can really start to embrace the feedback and embrace sitting in it for 2 minutes and moving on and finding out what you're going to do with it, you become better much faster. So I think that's something that I've been telling a lot of people lately that are just kind of like, what do I do? Where am I at? Lost my job. And I'm like, people, this is not going to be the first time. You're going to figure it out. So put your big girl pants on and your high heels, and let's go.
Love it.
I'm telling you, I'm going to put my sneaks on. Yes, I'm going to.
I got to buy a pair of those. I swear they were the cutest.
You have to. They're unbelievable. But exactly.
I don't know.
Matt, I think you nailed it in the sense that it's not easy being a leader right now. It's not easy doing anything right now. And in a weird way, if it is easy, you should have a couple like red flags up of like, why is this so easy? Right? Like it is, we're not in an easy space right now. And I don't think for leaders, it is hard. But I think the thing that has always kind of kept me grounded is that you're in control. Just because you've got a boss or a bad boss, or you lost your job, or you are in control of how you use your 24 hours. And there are so many resources out there, whether you like to read books, like to listen books, like to listen to a podcast like this one, you want to reach it. There are more resources than ever to make you feel like you're in complete control of where you're going in life. And I think that that's the biggest thing, is that you can choose whether or not you get out of bed in the morning and work on your resume, or get out of bed and go to a networking event, or, choose to stay late to learn from somebody, or choose to spend time in the kitchen versus front of house. And so it's really about those choices, making those hard choices, knowing that they are making the next days ahead of you that much easier. And so I think it's easy to kind of get lost in the noise right now. There's a lot happening. But if you kind of stay centered on the fact that you might get to make your own decisions, I think that's going to be what's most helpful for those that are coming up, in the industry right now.
I could not agree. I literally just read an article where Adam Halberg and I were kind of reading through it and having a discussion where the generation wants to. A lot of companies are demanding people come back into work, into the office, and when Kelly's saying like stay later, put in the effort. And a lot of the article is saying that these group of individuals want to work 11 to 3. They want to work from home in the morning, go to the office from 11 to 3, and then come back and work after at home. And it's just very interesting to me because I think my CFO responded to the when we were going back and forth on this, and Jody said, the people that get promoted put in the work. Like, you have to work hard. Nothing is given to you. But then they all want to get people. Not all people want to get promoted. People want increases. They want the titles, but you have to do the job before you get the job. And you do have to, like Kelly said, invest in your career and spend the extra time and be a learner and ask questions and get connected with the right people. But it is not going to come to everyone. And so I think that there is a little bit of a learning gap for some folks. It's a good call.
The other thing I was just going to say is that there's so many opportunities in the world right now where, if you need to be a stay-at-home mom and you can only work from, when the kids are asleep,
you can do that.
You can do that, and you can craft what is, makes the most sense for you and your needs and your wants. But kind of like you said, right? If you're looking to be up here, you got to put in the work to get up here. And I think but we're in control of it. And gosh, there's more opportunities than ever out there for you to take advantage of that.
I tell people I have a mom on my team and she wants all of these things. And I said, there's different seasons. It will happen to you. But right now you've got a 2-3-year-old. Like, let's manage the seasons and let's make sure you're set up for success. So then when the opportunity is there, you're ready to go. But let's make sure your home life is great so that you can show up at work great. Because if that's not good, work doesn't matter, right? And so there's all of those kind of conversations, and everyone has an individual story, to your point, Kelly. So if like you are a single mom, or you are a single dad, or you got to drop the kids off at work, we do have to be flexible in the workspace, but you can show up in other ways. So I think there's
Totally
a lot of room there. Yeah.
I think the one thing and that ties to what you both shared is put in the work. But Amy, you shared something about being visible. That back check to say, I got coaching and course correction, and closing that loop yourself by going back 30 and 60 days and saying, did I check that box? Any leader at any level listening to that, because we have, Amy's looking at high performance growth, embracing a team and her own personal growth, but also checking back. Because if the growth isn't visible to others, if you're working at home late at night, you might put in the hours, but it might not be seen. So it's not saying that you've got to be in a four walls of a space to be seen, but there has to be a dialogue and a conversation around the effort. And I couldn't echo more that people putting in the work are getting the opportunity. There's gap in leadership right now. And for the leaders, I just encourage people to continue to reflect on gratitude. Like, look at what's working for you right now. You don't live your life, you live the life you focus on. You can wake up and say hard and difficult and challenging and got to go back in the office, or somebody creating space for you to grow in your role. That's your choice. But I know the two of you practice, you see the great happening around you, and it multiplies to those that you impact. Some of us just got to see the great things happening before we choose to see the challenge. I just want to see how we broke down this episode. If you've made it to this part, we've done, and I hope you do this exercise yourself, because the design was intentional. Number one is I want you to reflect on yourself. What have you taken away from this year about yourself as a leader? Self-reflection, look internal. What have you learned about your team? And then what would you communicate if you had the chance? We all have the ability to have these conversations, but if you just take 5 minutes and do that self-reflection, but go out and drive these conversations, it's the intention to inspire the next generation of industry leaders. But it's also, I think, a reminder to the three of us just to frame it up and continue to have these chats. Amy and Kelly, anything to close us out for today?
Rent the runway, #sneaks, in case they want to send us some shoes. I'm just kidding, but maybe. And I just adore you both and so grateful you're in my life. And I've learned a lot from both of you, and we'll continue to, and keep shining. So yes, all good.
Thank you.
I gotta say, I'm grateful for this space, being able to share this with you too, and have these kind of open conversations to share how we're feeling, what we're seeing, and always being shoulders to lie on, to cry on, to lean on. I think is always something that's you need that in the space, and I think us leaders, as we all continue to stick together and learn from each other, we just continue to raise the performance across the board. So I'm thankful for the both of you.
I'm thinking for the both of you to create this opportunity. Everything starts with intention. We're now passing through 20 episodes of the Lead podcast with hundreds of back. We just looked at some of the watch rates and follow through, and it's impacting. So we did something with intention and purpose, and excited to see the next set of episodes come out. Thank you.
Thanks, everybody.